Okay, the question was thoughts on congressional term limits, filibuster, and expanding the Supreme Court. Okay, so I'm going to try and take those in order. Congressional term limits. Selfishly, after having run for 9 months, it is brutal running for Congress, you guys. But look, two years for House Rep, I think is, I think that's fair. It's just what's broken is the campaign finance system, because what we shouldn't have happen is people like me needing to spend 90% of their time fundraising to be competitive. That is absurd. And it also creates a huge barrier to entry, because look, I'm lucky to have a partner who's willing to say, okay, you can quit your job. You want to do this. I think this is good for our communities. I will support the household for a year. There are a lot of people who can't do that. And I know that the best people probably to have in government are the people who can't afford to do it. And if we don't fix our campaign finance system, that will never happen. And so I am 100% committed to trying to work on that problem and doing it for and advocating for that for as long as humanly possible. And I think that, you know, when you've got somebody in like Ken Calvert, who's been there for 30 years, 2-year cycle is one thing, but staying for 30, and I'll be honest, I've got mixed feelings on this because yeah. Right. Right. And we I think we need to strike the balance there between having enough years in where you've got experience to meaningfully deliver and work on difficult and complex issues, but not so long that you're not getting fresh ideas and fresh leadership into the House. And where that magic number is really tough to say, because I admire some members in the House who have been for a long time, who haven't, I think, lost sight of what matters. But one thing I think both parties should be doing more of is mentoring new folks and newer generations and bringing them up. And I've been very grateful to people like U.S. Senator Barbara Boxer, people like Congresswoman Jackie Spear, who have been really helpful to me in my campaign and talking to me. And I think we need more of that kind of leadership so that we can get new folks in. And I think filibuster, we've got to get rid of that. And look, I think that this is a relic of Jim Crowe in a lot of ways. It is something that has been used again and again and again to beat back crucial progress on things like voting rights. And as I see this midterm, part of the reason it's so crucial that we take the House and pick up a few more seats in the Senate is so that we can protect our democracy long term. And if you've got folks who are willing to filibuster legislation that's designed to prevent it from being a felony in Georgia to hand somebody a bottle of water while they're waiting in line, that is anti-democratic. And the filibuster itself is anti-democratic. And so I'm optimistic, though, that we can keep the House, and especially after seeing votes like what happened in Kansas. And I think looking at the Senate, there's some very, very winnable seats in the Senate, too. And if we expand our majority by a few, I think that legislation and things like voting rights are going to be possible in November. And the last point on Supreme Court reform, boy, I think, you know, I think all Americans want a court that is independent, a judiciary that is meaningfully independent. That is the point of that branch. That is the point of Article 3, right? And what's happened is we've had one party game the system and break so many of our unwritten norms about how to keep that judiciary meaningfully independent, yet also a reflection of the people's will, that we have gotten things like Roe versus Wade overturned. The first time, arguably, in history that an individual constitutional right was taken away from Americans. And that is a product not just of the court itself, I think, and the political process that's been used to confirm justices being broken, but also the Electoral College. Republicans have won the popular vote one time since 1988. George W. Bush, 2004. That is remarkable that they have a 6-3 majority on the court. And that is just not reflective of the will of the American people. And there has to be a balance between that popular will and also an independent judiciary. And so what I would support doing is looking at something like having federal circuit judges have a minimum of 10 years experience and then randomly rotate onto the court so that neither party could game the system as effectively. And it's much more difficult to predict a judge's partisan rulings after 10 years on a federal appellate court. I would support things like maybe randomizing cert petitions. These are the petitions that litigants will file seeking the Supreme Court review of their case at the circuit court level. If you randomize which cases are heard, much more difficult for justices to go in and hand pick a case that's designed to overturn Roe, for example. They're just deciding more impartially. So I think we should absolutely look at it, because the issue is it's faith, the American people's faith in the court as an institution has diminished rapidly and dramatically these last few years, and we've got to restore it. And I think that long term, no matter which party you belong to, we want a judiciary that's independent.